Hello everyone, this is Good Friday, the day when we remember the last hours of Jesus' life. We had been planning to have a prayer walk round North Berwick, stopping at various places and listening to parts of the reading of the story. That's obviously impossible at this time, but I'm delighted that Hazel Gray has put together this selection of readings and clips so that we can have a sort of virtual prayer walk, remembering the story of Good Friday. I hope you enjoy it and find it helpful. God bless.
We start our walk at North Berwick Harbour, the scene of many people entering and exiting North Berwick over the centuries. And we give thanks for the Christian heritage, for the pilgrims who came and went through North Berwick, for the people who have prayed for centuries for this town. As we walk past the site of the old kirk, we turn round and survey the scene. We see the red granite cross that was erected as a memorial for a 19-year-old girl who back in 1889 gave her life to save a drowning boy. Let's stop here as we hear our first reading, which starts in Luke chapter 22, verse 66.
At daybreak, the nation's leaders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law of Moses got together and brought Jesus before their council. They said, "Tell us, are you the Messiah?" Jesus replied, "If I said so, you wouldn't believe me. And if I asked you a question, you wouldn't answer. But from now on, the Son of Man will be seated at the right side of God all-powerful." Then they asked, "Are you the Son of God?" Jesus answered, "You say I am." They replied, "Why do we need more witnesses? He said it himself." Everyone in the council got up and led Jesus off to Pilate. They started accusing him and said, "We caught this man trying to get our people to riot and to stop paying taxes to the emperor. He also claims that he is the Messiah, our king." Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "Those are your words," Jesus answered. Pilate told the chief priests and the crowd, "I don't find him guilty of anything." But they all kept on saying, "He has been teaching and causing trouble all over Judea. He started in Galilee and has now come all the way here." When Pilate heard this, he asked, "Is this man from Galilee?" After Pilate learned that Jesus came from the region ruled by Herod, he sent him to Herod, who was in Jerusalem at that time. For a long time, Herod had wanted to see Jesus and was very happy because he finally had this chance. He had heard many things about Jesus and hoped to see him work a miracle. Herod asked him a lot of questions, but Jesus did not answer. Then the chief priests and the teachers of the law of Moses stood up and accused him of all kinds of bad things. Herod and his soldiers made fun of Jesus and insulted him. They put a fine robe on him and sent him back to Pilate. That same day, Herod and Pilate became friends, even though they had been enemies before this.
We continue our walk, leaving behind the old kirk and the harbour, and travelling down towards the high street. We walk down Victoria Road, past some of the cottages there, and we come towards the Baptist church on our right. We give thanks for the worshipping community there. We continue along Quality Street And we think of the many businesses who find themselves closed at this time. For those who are struggling to make a living. For those needing wisdom about how best to support themselves and their families and their workers. We come along Kirkport and we come towards Old St Andrew's Church. And here we'll stop for our second reading.
Pilate called together the chief priests, the leaders and the people. He told them, "You brought Jesus to me and said he was a troublemaker, but I have questioned him here in front of you, and I have not found him guilty of anything that you say he has done." Herod didn't find him guilty either and sent him back. "This man doesn't deserve to be put to death. I will just have him beaten with a whip and set free." But the whole crowd shouted, "Kill Jesus! Give us Barabbas!" Now Barabbas was in jail because he had started a riot in the city and had murdered someone. Pilate wanted to set Jesus free, so he spoke again to the crowds, but they kept shouting, "Nail him to a cross! Nail him to a cross!" Pilate spoke to them a third time, "But what crime has he done? I haven't found him guilty of anything for which he should be put to death. I will have him beaten with a whip and set free." The people kept on shouting as loud as they could for Jesus to be put to death. Finally, Pilate gave in. He freed the man who was in jail for rioting and murder because he was the one the crowd wanted to set free. Then Pilate handed Jesus over to them to do what they wanted with him.
As we leave St Andrew's Old Church, we take a left up to Law Road. On our right, we pass North Berwick Day Centre, and we pray for the older members of our community, those who are missing that sense of community where they met, those who are finding social isolation a very lonely place to be. On our right, we come up to the community centre, and again think of all those who would regularly meet with others at the community centre. We pray for the staff there, for wisdom for them. On our left, we pass Our Lady of the Waves Church, and we give thanks for the worshipping community there. We continue up Law Road towards North Berwick Law. As we do so, we pass on our right the entrance to North Berwick High School, where North Berwick Christian Fellowship meet. And again, we thank you for the worshipping community there. And we come up towards Law Primary. And we pray for our children and young people. We pray for a sense of loss for those who are missing out on being with their friends, on Primary 7 trips or school musicals, exams, study. We pray for the staff members and give thanks for those who are continuing to come into school to support some of our more vulnerable young people. As we do that, let's stop as we hear our next reading.
As Jesus was being led away, some soldiers grabbed hold of a man from Cyrene named Simon. He was coming in from the fields, but they put the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A large crowd was following Jesus, and in the crowd a lot of women were crying and weeping for him. Jesus turned to the woman and said, "Women of Jerusalem, don't cry for me. Cry for yourselves and for your children. Someday people will say, 'Women who never had children are really fortunate.' At that time, everyone will say to the mountains, 'Fall on us.' They will say to the hills, 'Hide us.' If this can happen when the wood is green, what do you think will happen when it is dry?" 2 criminals were led out to be put to death with Jesus. When the soldiers came to the place called the Skull, they nailed Jesus to a cross. They also nailed the 2 criminals to crosses, one on each side of Jesus. Jesus said, "Father, forgive these people. They don't know what they're doing."
As we leave North Berwick Law, we turn around and move down the hill again. On our left we pass North Berwick Sports Centre, and we give thanks for the opportunities to keep fit, to meet together. And Lord, we pray as we come down to the crossroads again, and this time we take a left. As we do so, we pass many different houses. And again, just pray for those who are feeling lonely. And we pray for a real sense of community, for people to be there for one another, to love one another and support one another. As we continue along the road, we come up towards the turning to Abbey Manse. And we pray for David right now, just for wisdom for him as he seeks to support the parish, as he misses the fellowship of the many people that come to church, and those in the community too. And we stop here as we reach the fire station and the railway station. And we stop for our next reading.
While the crowd stood there watching Jesus, the soldiers gambled for his clothes. The leaders insulted him by saying, "He saved others, now he should save himself if he really is God's chosen Messiah." The soldiers made fun of Jesus and brought him some wine. They said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." Above him was a sign that said, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals hanging there also insulted Jesus by saying, "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and save us." But the other criminal told the first one off, "Don't you fear God? Aren't you getting the same punishment as this man? We got what was coming to us, but he didn't do anything wrong." Then he said to Jesus, "Remember me when you come into power." Jesus replied, "I promise that today you will be with me in paradise."
As we leave the fire station, we give thanks for the emergency services, for fire brigade, police, ambulance, for all they're doing to keep our community going. As we pass the railway station with such a full car park, we think how empty it must be just now as few people are commuting into work. And we pass St Baldred's Church, and we give thanks for the worshipping community there. As we take a right down Station Hill, we walk to the once busy High Street, but so much quieter right now. We pray for those who are not able to work just now, for those who are on furlough, for those who are self-employed but can't work, for those who are working from home and maybe facing different situations as they cope with that. We give thanks for those who are keeping our shops open, for those who are shop assistants, delivery drivers, cleaners, all sorts of different people. In the distance, we see on our right St Andrew Blackadder Tower, and we thank you for the worshipping community there. And we come and rest for our final reading here at Abbey Church.
Around noon, the sky turned dark and stayed that way until the middle of the afternoon. The sun stopped shining, and the curtain in the temple split down the middle. Jesus shouted, "Father, I put myself into your hands." Then he died. When the Roman officer saw what happened, he praised God and said, "Jesus must really have been a good man." A crowd gathered to see the terrible sight. Then after they had seen it, they felt broken-hearted and went home. All of Jesus' close friends and the women who had come with him from Galilee stood at a distance and watched.
As we finish, we walk along towards Church Road and out to open sea. And we pray for those who are finding this time difficult. We pray for those involved in our health service, NHS workers, for those who are behind the scenes, keeping our communities moving, for those who make the decisions, for those in Parliament, the Scottish Parliament. And we give all these things to our God, a God who we know, even though sometimes it's hard to see, we know that he is in control. As we come to Good Friday, we remember all that he's done for us on the cross. And we remember the hope of Easter Sunday that is to come. And as we finish, Robert Bergen is going to play for us "When I Survey the Wondrous Cross." Please sing along and give our worship to God. Amen.